right, everyone. Hopefully you're going to be able to hear me. I'm going to have to talk extra loud because we got a lot of ambient noise going on out here. So we're out here, summer, we're out here on the flat top. We got the Blackstone going. And there's a recipe that, we also have a rooster right here by us as well. So there's a lot of ambient noise. And we don't have a wireless mic, so if any of our sponsors want to donate a wireless mic to the cause, here you go. But anyway, there'll be some wind, there'll be some other things, but hopefully you'll be able to hear me. It's a cool little recipe for the flat top, and you can do this in a skillet if you don't have a flat top. So I just wanted to bring this to you real quick. One of the things I've got on here is some teriyaki drummies. So with these drummies, I've just been cooking these down for a few minutes because these are gonna cook or take longer to cook than this other recipe that I'm fixing to show you here in just a second. So they've been on here for about 5 minutes, and I'm just turning them now and moving them. And I'm actually moving them to the other side of the flat top because I want to get this flavor from where they were just cooking. Now you'll notice that the flat top does tend to burn sauces. Hopefully you can see that, but that's the teriyaki sauce that's on this, and it will burn too. So you kind of want to scrape off any of that real black stuff where it's burned. Leave some on there for your flavor, but you see these flakes coming off, that's that kind of burned on sauce. But I want some of that flavor, so what I'm gonna do is I got some butter here. This is a great little recipe that a lot of people don't make, kind of don't really know about necessarily. So I put a couple of tablespoons of butter on there right where I had those drummies. And I'm gonna kind of break up all this flavor from where those chicken drumsticks were. I'm gonna hit this a little bit more butter. This is a great recipe if you have a garden and you got a lot of garden vegetables. So what I've got here is a fresh cabbage, a fresh onion, and a fresh carrot. And in essence, kind of think of this like this is gonna end up similar to fried rice. So I dump that on there. Now you'll notice I cubed that carrot and I julienned or shredded the cabbage. I actually kind of like that because I like there to be a little bit different textures in this recipe. I also half moon those onions, if I can find one in here somewhere. So I've got 3 different textures. They're in there, trust me. So I'm spreading this cabbage mixture out and I put it right where I had those drummies. I moved the drummies to the other side. I put the cabbage on this side. And I'm just gonna saute this cabbage down for just a minute or two here. Now Sarah and I talk a lot when we do classes or videos or whatever about knowing when things are gonna get done. The drummies had to go on first, I knew that, because they're gonna take 15 to 20 minutes on this flat top. This cabbage is gonna take about 8 minutes. So I have to plan accordingly or else I'm sitting here with a bunch of cabbage ready that's getting cold and drummies that aren't even close. Keep in mind too, on any of your kind of cylindrical shaped foods, they need to be rotated more than something that's flat and gonna cook on both sides. And on these drummies, you can kind of set them on their edge and lean them against one another, and that way they kind of cook evenly, cook through, and you get a whole lot better end result. But keep in mind that things are gonna take a lot different times, and that somewhat comes by learning just by doing it. So I put those on their sides, and they're still pretty raw on some sides, but the other sides are cooked. That's why I need to rotate these around way more than I would if I had a steak or a hamburger. So anyway, I've got these on here. You got the one that doesn't want to turn. I got my cabbage, my onion, and my carrot. Last thing that I need really, I have 2 eggs. Because again, this is going to kind of come out like fried rice, and you can a little bit sell this to your kids like, oh, this is like the fried rice you have at the Japanese place or whatever, because the taste ends up similar. I've got the 2 eggs. I'm not quite ready for those yet. And what I've got here is a can of Thai noodle sauce. This is Masery brand. You can find this on Amazon and at a lot of stores and stuff. It's not hard to find. If you don't have that, just some soy sauce and some oyster sauce would make the same thing. I do have a little soy sauce here. That's a gluten-free soy sauce that I'm going to throw on there. Be careful with this cabbage, unlike rice, not to oversalt this. Pretty easy to oversalt this recipe if you're not careful with these sauces. So if you see, I turned this over a little bit, and it has all that color, and a lot of that came from where I'd cooked the chicken in that same spot. So again, I just kind of want to cook this down, and I'm not saucing it yet because I don't want all those sugars coming out of my sauce just yet, because this is not ready for it. And if I cook it down, I'll end up with nothing basically but sugars and some salt. The flavor kind of cooks out and it leaves the sugars and the salt. If you want a little more flavor, you can throw some fresh garlic in there. We've actually got some that we just harvested. Doesn't necessarily need it, so I'm not putting it in there. But again, just kind of get some color on this cabbage. And this is going to be, again, a delicious recipe. It's super easy. And if you don't have the flat top, just throw this in a skillet, preferably an iron skillet. But if you don't have an iron skillet, throw it in a regular. If you don't have an iron skillet, you don't have a regular skillet, you're in trouble. Kind of long and short of it, because you don't have a skillet. It probably means you don't have an oven. You're really in trouble. It's going to be hard to cook anything without that. So as this is starting to get some color, hopefully you can see that, and the onions and the carrots start to cook. The carrots in this will take the longest because they're a little bit thicker cut. You could cut them all really super thin and they take about the same amount of time. Come back in here and turn your drummies to the other side now. And usually when you turn these drummies about 3 or 4 times is when you know, you always have to talk over me, is when you know that you're getting ready to add your salt. Once these drummies start getting a lot of color on all sides, you're pretty well getting close to adding your salt. So I kind of just line those up. Some of them do not want to sit on that one side for some reason. Lean them against one another until they hold. Turn that. All right, so for crying out loud, I might have switched to the left. I'm amphibious. Or not. Wow. Okay, now it's personal. Okay, perfect. So, I'm going to come back here with a little more butter. My cabbage is cooked down really good. I'm going to throw a little butter in the middle of this. It's another couple tablespoons. And then I'm going to kind of gather it all up. Get it all up there in a nice pile so it makes it easy for me to flip when I add this sauce. So I've got my Thai noodle sauce here. It starts off kind of thick. It actually turns more into a liquid the more it cooks. That's about half of that can. I'll taste test this in a little bit and see if that's enough. If it needs a little more flavor, I'll add it. I'll add that much soy sauce because that's all I got. That's the perfect amount of soy sauce when that's all the soy sauce you got. So, because it wouldn't matter if it wasn't the perfect amount. You ain't got no more. So you toss all this together. You notice this flat top's pretty well seasoned up. We've used her a lot. Nothing's really sticking, and you hear complaints all the time about, everything's sticking. If you get it nice and seasoned, not a whole lot sticks. It's like anything. Now, if you see that this is super dry, I do have a little water. I could add it to it. If this seems like it's really, really dry, I'm probably going to add just a little water because I want it to be a little bit salty. But I'm also ready for my eggs. So I'll make a little hole in the middle. I'll push my cabbage off to the side. I'm not going to do that twirly fancy thing that you see at the Japanese place. Now wait, I'll try. Oh, okay. That's why I don't work at one of those places. Anyway, so there you go. There's my Japanese steakhouse. ability. I probably should have practiced that more before I tried it. But cook these eggs up just like in fried rice. Think about when you're doing fried rice, this is exactly how you want to do it up. Kind of turn that over. Now this cabbage is probably about where I want it. You don't want to cook this all the way down until it's mush. You want it to still have some flavor. So what I need to do is get these eggs cooked up here. And then I'll just chop those up and mix them in. I'll give these drummies another flip. You see how the great color they're taking on. They're going to be phenomenal. Just keep cooking those all the way through. Sometimes you just got to take a knife and cut a bite off of one of them suckers to see if it's done. Because drummies tend to be a little hard to tell about. So I got those all flipped around. My egg looks like it's cooked up. Chop that up nice. Just like you do your fried rice. The only difference being fried rice has little different seasonings in it. Some peas and some stuff like that this doesn't have. So come in here, toss this all together. You can smell that sauce in it. It smells very, very similar to what you'd make your fried rice. Kind of flatten that all back out. And basically that's done. Now, I am going to see if I've got something here. I got a knife blade. This will work perfect for a fork. So what I want to do is I want to try this. If you've ever eaten anything off the blade of a knife, you're probably in the South. That is some good eating. We could use a little more of the noodle sauce. This will end up being about 3/4 of this can. And I'm gonna fish around and see if I got any more soy sauce anywhere, because if I do, it could use a little bit of that. Toss that together. And there you have it. All you do now is pull this in and eat. Let this cool for a minute and clean off your flat top. But anyway, that's a cabbage like fried rice with the fresh cabbage and the onions and the carrots. You throw a couple eggs in, some soy sauce and a little noodle sauce. All of it on the flat top, the drummies and the stir-fried cabbage.